Welcome or welcome back. My name is Yu Ouyang. You can call me You Win or Win, and I'm happy that we're connecting whenever and wherever you are tuning in. This is a video in my 90 days series of really speaking my truth and sharing my story. And I hope that if this is something that you've been working on, that this is a sign, this is confirmation for you to take that step that you've been thinking about. And that it's okay to do it messily, it's okay to do it imperfectly, it's okay to do it scared. And I like to start each one of these videos sharing a practice. And I will continue in the series of sharing a question for you to ponder, especially as we close out 2025, if you're watching this in real time. And so, the second question that I wanted to share with you yesterday's was what were your wins in the year? And this question is, what were the challenges during this year? And so feel free to take that. If challenges doesn't feel right, finding a word that feels better. Maybe what were the difficulties? What were um, the areas or the moments that were rough? Um, what were the situations that were uneaseful or that caused you to take, a double take? And so that's the question that I wanted to share. If you are someone who is able to reflect on it, you might consider a single notebook for these end of the year reflections. Um, and so for me, I'll go ahead and share what I came up with uh, as today's video. So when I was reflecting on the challenges, it actually was connected to the wins. I realized that something had to have happened for me to sit with the contrast and then to be able to see how I chose to move forward. And if those choices had a positive impact, then they resulted in my wins. So they are connected. And then I did actually go back and find some more wins. I was able to find another journal that had the first half of the year. So that was really exciting. So the challenges for me this year was unlearning mental habits around collective fear, anxiety, and energy. And so I've definitely struggled with this a lot as somebody who is highly sensitive and was really in a situation when I was younger to have to tune in to other people. And if it is possible for me to also be tuned into, people's energies, even if they're not near me. For example, a couple of years after I had broken up with one of my former partners, um, then I had a really bad case of not being able to sleep. It's one of those nights where I don't know or didn't know if I ever fell asleep or fell into deep sleep. I was restless the entire time, um, and it felt like a really long night. And then in the morning, when I got to work, my mom had called me and was like, "Hey, you should be sitting down." I was like, "Okay." And then she's like, "Your ex's mom passed away." And I was like, "Oh." And she had told me that she wasn't able to sleep too. Sort of being tuned into that. And I've mentioned in maybe a video or two that before some like major catastrophes around the world, I've also had that same experience of not being able to sleep. And so, this challenge around unlearning my mental habits is I don't know if, there's responsibility isn't a good word, but I can't find a better word for it yet. Sort of just taking on, maybe absorbing um, how other people feel, um, and sort of the energies before something really negative happening. Um, and so with all of the changes in the geosocial political atmosphere in the world, um, there was just a lot of fear that I experienced and that I absorbed and I held on to, and that I took on as mine. And while I'm not saying that, compassion is not important, um, I think I was just trying to find a way and a balance to keep functioning and to keep my well being and sanity intact so that I could continue to function in my life and be well resourced enough to get through the day. So that was a really big challenge from this year. Anxiety was another challenge. I think it really got bad in April, and it had been building up until that month. And so, um, really trying to find ways to make it through the day without falling apart or breaking down um, was the normal for me in April. Um, and so, finding ways to navigate that, whether it was, working with a new therapist or if it was, trying to do exercises around what my beliefs were and if I could shift the beliefs or if I could change the beliefs and offer a new, belief in its place, were some of the ways that I was navigating anxiety. Um, it's also navigating some of the limited beliefs I've had around money and scarcity this year, um, which I think was helpful because it probably got really bad in 2023 and just unsure and unable to find strategies to sort of move out of the fear. So that was a challenge that I'm still working on and seeing some progress. Um, Another thing is, I guess I didn't realize how difficult it was because I had spent much of my life repressing and hiding my emotions, especially, well, as just any of them, really, my emotions. And so, one of the really big surprising challenges this year, because of trying to express and acknowledge my emotions, was finding ways to regulate. Like, I'd never had so much difficulty. I couldn't figure out, like how do people do this? Um, but it had been because I hadn't let myself feel all of my emotions. And I was like, oh. So finding ways to regulate has been a challenge. And then connected to that and what I'm working on still, expressing those emotions, needs, and wants. Continue Continued challenge. Um, Another challenge has been remembering that I have freedom to choose my thoughts, what I focus on. That is a constant, it's a moment to moment practice. In addition to remembering who I truly am, um, I was reminded of this idea that I originally heard from Michael Singer in The Untethered Soul, but had been reminded when, I don't know, there's a video I watched. Perhaps it was something connected to Alan Watts, um, which I'll look for to add into the notes. Um, they talk about this idea that we are not, the sensations we experience, we're not the emotions we experience, but we are the consciousness that notices or observes those sensations. And so that sometimes is very difficult for me to remember. But when I can tune into that, that energy is connected to source for me and being an extension of source. So that's been a challenge, ongoing challenge. Um, One of the more specific challenges from this year was having a week to prepare uh, to speak before my classmates at my 20th reunion. Um, who I'd spent 20 years hiding from. So it was quite the ordeal. Um, it's been a challenge to pause when I'm overwhelmed. It's been a challenge to know my worth or value. It's been a challenge navigating the changes in my body this year. Um, some of those moments of falling um, have been very frightening. Sort of my increase, maybe it's an increase in the extremes of like regulating my body temperature. So, I was realizing when it was warm that I had a really difficult time cooling off. And I felt hot more often, even if it was mild for some and mild for me previously. But then I'm also noticing that's really hard for me to regulate when it's cold. And so, it's just becoming more extreme. So that's been a challenge. I also had a challenging situation with health related to my heart. And so there was a time period where my doctor asked me to restrain from any physical exertion, including walking, until I was able to do a stress test. So that was a challenge this year. Um, Another challenge was confronting and acknowledging my feelings for others. Um, a challenge of finding motivation for work in the ways that my role has shifted and the tasks have shifted, the volume has shifted. Um, and then lastly, I have here navigating what to do when I felt out of alignment with certain situations. So, for example, I think I was having just sort of like feeling misaligned with some people that were in my circle. And so trying to make decisions about what to do about if I should continue to spend time with them or not. And so navigating that was, an example of a challenge for me this year. In that reflection, I know that, I know this isn't the Olympics of suffering. I know that these things aren't terrible things to go through. Um, so I want to be able to step back and have some perspective, um, but also to be able to be honest with myself about what felt difficult this year. Oh, yeah. I'm going to have another question for you in tomorrow's video. Uh, and then I will, I want trying to figure out how to close out this 90-day series. It'll be the last video will be not tomorrow, but in 2 days. Um, maybe maybe I will not poll and see what I should talk about. Um, Maybe I will do my thank you for, I'm sorry for um, kind of practice that I picked up from finding Ohana um, as a way to close it out. So I'll probably do that. And um, then I was like, huh, well, that means I only have one more question to share with you unless I do a few. Hmm, we'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling tomorrow. But for now, I might, let me see. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my other questions. And then tomorrow I'll spend some time sharing questions about next year. Okay. So I've given you what were your wins, what were your challenges, um, one of my favorite questions is what was a highlight from each month? So if you could go through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December of this year. And then I used my photos to help me to remember and or my journals. So that's another question. Another question is, what did I start doing this year that was memorable? Um, what was my mindset like? What was your mindset like? Uh, Another question was, what lessons did you learn this year? So I'm going to leave that and I'm going to not answer them since I've already taken up some time talking about the other things. But tomorrow I will share some of the questions around dreaming, hoping, wondering for the next year. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for witnessing this. I know we are in the middle of the holidays in real time here in the Northern Hemisphere. So if you are going through a lot, I hope you are allowing yourself to take it moment by moment. I don't really think taking it day by day is realistic when there's so much on our plates and so much that we experience and feel and confront. So, I hope you're able to meet the moments for yourself with ease and love and grace. So I will connect with you another time. But until then, please take good care. Okay, bye bye.